welcome to Beyond the Veil. I am Adina, your hostess with the mostest, your facilitator here for the evening on this channel of discussion, your resident oracle and wise woman, medium, woo lady, and whatever you call us by whatever name, sure. Welcome. I'm sorry, I just can't get right with this hair. Welcome. If you are new here, if this is your first time, you're curious about what I do, and then you just so happen to find out that I'm a little bit weird, a little bit strange, you are welcome to leave. You are welcome to do so freely, peacefully. My feelings won't be hurt, and I send you off with blessings. And if you are like DeFranco and you are an OG here, welcome. Welcome back. Happy Monday, DeFranco. Happy day of the moon. How are you, my dear? I feel like I've been gone for a really long time. Like I haven't seen you guys. Feels like it's been lifetimes since I've been up here. Please, as you come in, let me know how you're doing on this Monday. You're good? You're resting? Good. I did the same this weekend. So I'm glad to hear that you're getting some rest because as humans, all we know is labor. So if you have the opportunity to rest, I am glad for you. How's everybody else doing? I don't see anyone else in the chat, but I do see that a few people are here. Please don't be weird and come in and not say anything. Hi, Tiara. Happy Monday to you. Thank you, Dawn. How are you guys this lovely Monday? Hey, Jaden. Thank you guys for greeting me as you came in. God bless you guys this Monday, this day of the moon. I have a Mars in Virgo too, DeFranco, and I can't rest either. But I have for ever since the new moon, I've been doing that. I've been resting. I've been sleeping good, taking naps, dreaming. Hello in Nigeria. Dami, welcome. Hey, JD. Hello. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm so happy to see you guys. I've been gone. I took the weekend off. I've been good. I've been good, Dami. Like I was saying, I took the weekend off and got some rest, recuperation, and restoration. I was really, thank you, Alyssa. I was really fed up with YouTube and the trolls and everything last week. I had to take a step back and ask if I even really still want to be bothered with people that I don't know. And I got a little bit of rest and a little bit of courage that I needed to continue going. A little reassurance from my spirits that all will be well. Hello, baby mama Busset. How's the little bubble nugget? So, while I was resting and while I was conferring with my spirits about my own spirit, not about you, but about me, a message dropped into my spirit as I was thinking about abandoning you guys. Because I do. At least once a month, I'll be like, please let me say it is. Please don't let anyone play down with my negative vibes. It's a little bit tough. It's a little bit tough when I put myself out here voluntarily and I don't have to do that. And it's not something that I do naturally. Be up in people's face like that. So yes, whenever I have an overwhelming amount of negative energy like that, I do. Sometimes I go into myself and I be like, that is it. That is fucking it. Because my presence here is being taken for granted. And no, I don't think I'm the HBIC, but I do demand my respect. And if I'm in an environment where I feel like I am being disrespected and I can't do anything about it, then I just remove myself from it, then try to change the world and change all the negative people. But it's in moments like that when I get my most important tasks, which is why I'm here. Because for my members, we have been in a Reclaiming the Prophecy series where I have been breaking down the book of Revelation in a way that it has not been done wholeheartedly, that I know of and that all of my members know of. None of us have seen or heard the prophecies being interpreted this way, and I believe that it's because of two reasons. For one, it wasn't time for them, for the seals, the seven seals to be open, and two, well, the people required, the people responsible for interpreting them, um, the people that it was meant to interpret and disperse them, it wasn't time for them to do so yet. And so now, I believe for the first time in my known history, they have been accurately interpreted in a way where nobody leaves wondering what's going on, nobody leaves confused, nobody leaves needing to plug their own interpretations into anything. We have receipts, we have dates, we have names. And so we are getting ready to, let me see where we are. What are we doing tonight? Tonight we do Revelation 22. So we are at the end of my Reclaiming the Prophecies series on Revelation. Reclaiming the prophecies will not end with Revelation. I will reclaim other prophecies that have been misinterpreted. Have a good night, Mr. Dami. God bless you for being here. I'm sorry that I came here when it's nighttime in Nigeria. Nevertheless, the next series was dropped into my spirit um, this morning, and I am going to do a sneak peek into that series here. So this will not be a traditional reading. You're welcome, Dami. This will not be a traditional reading. So if you guys are here looking for me to read a celebrity, this isn't the live for you. Come back on Wednesday and I'll be back to that. I'm going to introduce to everyone. Hi, NLS, my love. I thought about you this weekend. I'm getting ready to introduce the next series that will be taking place in my members live. And I do not drop these kind of gems or do these kind of things on my public live because you do not cast pearls, well, where they are not welcome. And so the people who become members are my members because they are invested in a little something else other than entertainment. So they get these things. I am doing much better this week in LS. I'm so glad, and I actually hope that you're doing well too. So this new series is Reclaiming the Law. Now, on this channel and during some of my readings, especially the readings that are on current events and the government and world news, I speak a lot about or natural law, human law, and sovereignty. I speak a lot about consent. Goodbye, artists. Let me help you out so that you don't come back. This is milk. This is not meat. So this will not be a day for entertainment. All of you are welcome to leave if you are here to be entertained. This today is a message. Those who have ears, let them hear. Those who do not have the ability to hear, may they be escorted out. I am not talking to anyone looking for tea or entertainment. I'm giving you guys just a little bit of what I give my members, and then I will continue this series on my members live as we wrap up our Reclaiming the Prophecies. It's only right after we begin reclaiming prophecies that we also reclaim the law. And by doing that, I want to start talking about consent and how we give consent to beings outside of ourselves to take control of our lives for us. And it is the reason why so many people are frustrated with their government. So many people are praying, witching, and doing all types of strategizing to get under the burden of oppression from their governments. How people are out loud saying that they desire one thing, but they feel like their governments are going rogue, their leaders are going rogue, and they're doing what they want, and the whole world and the nation is just being torn down. And people wonder why that is. Well, there is one word that my spirits first told me, and then I remembered the law. And then it all came together, and that word is consent. Now, before I start reading, because I'm only going to do the preamble here on this live, and the rest of this series, as I mentioned, will take place on my members live after we finish reclaiming the prophecies with Revelation. I just wanted to start introducing the next message, the next trumpet to blow. Because when I asked my spirits today if I should deliver this message, if I should even bring it to my channel because of the position that it would put me in, knowing that Big Brother is watching and knowing how they feel about messages like these that they deem to be anti-government, and they deem people who say these things to be domestic terrorists. And so this was a real conversation that I had to have with my spirits, even on the brink of me feeling like I don't want to do this channel anymore because of the negative energy. I got an even more trivial message to deliver when I wanted to walk away, an even more polarizing and controversial message to some. And so that just shows how I'm being held hostage by the spirits. Yet, NLS is an OG Busted baby. She does not comment much, but she is very much a client. She participates in almost all the group ceremonies, and she be here on the live. She just don't say much. So JD, yes, NLS is a sweet, 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 sweet cousin of you guys. Very sweet woman, very sweet lady. You guys don't have any concern with NLS. She's sleaze brim, swooped to the core. She's definitely an OG. She's done every group ceremony I think I've had, and maybe she skipped some, but I don't remember. She be in them though. I don't even know that she be on my lives until she'll message me on my text and be like, "Hey, I was just in your live," or in my email and be like, "I was in your live and you said," and I'd be like, "Girl, I ain't know you be in there," but she be in there, quiet. It's a lot of OG Busted babies that are in here that don't talk much. Chatting on social media isn't their thing, but they be here. The gang is pretty large and it's growing. You'd be surprised at the people who hit me up directly. NLS is in another country, so the time difference might have something to do with her participation, but a woman should learn quietness and full submission. I bet it'd make you feel better if I did that. Make you feel a lot more masculine, make you feel a lot more smart. Probably because you can't keep up with, let alone facilitate conversations like the ones I do. And I'm very, very, very familiar with making people feel intimidated when I'm not trying to, when I'm just trying to be a good person. So I get it. Flabba Jabba, I get it why you feel like women should be that way when you're not as bright. But therein lies the problem. I am very much refreshed. My spirits have let me know that they fully support me in delivering this message. Like I was saying, I I actually have been sleeping well since I haven't been on live. Um, but I'll explain that in the members live. Um, I asked my spirits because I was like, spirits, I deal with the trollage on social media. I already don't like that because nobody has the balls to speak to me like that in person. Nobody in my entire life. Whether they've considered themselves enemies to me, nobody ever has disrespected me that way to my face. Behind my back, sure. And not too many people are brave enough to do that to such a lady. To such a lady. I'm not saying I'm a big bag bully, but to a lady. One who they say do not touch a hair on the head of my anointed, so people don't really bother me that way, except for people behind screens. And I get it. I am here in the public. So as I was talking to my spirits, and I was like, Big Brother watches. It's one thing dealing with the trolls, but I have been threatened by Big Brother before. Very early on this channel, I did a case that a friend of mine asked me to pick up. A friend of mine asked me to look into a disappearance of someone they knew. I did. I told them what I saw. They encouraged me to go to the police with what I saw. Me just trying to do the right thing, I did. And I learned a thing or two about how that can happen when you present information that is valid, but you should not know, that you should have no way of knowing. You just shouldn't be able to know that. And it turned into, I'm sure it would have been some kind of gang stalking situation, and it probably still is. I don't see it. I don't see it. But it started out that way until I did some woo, and then I didn't have any problems with them anymore. But I was receiving threatening emails from very weird email addresses, and they usually be associated with the police force in that specific place that I was reading on. The comments on my videos were from profiles that had Blue Lives Matter badges, and they were very threatening. I went through a time of having to keep all of those messages, and I still do have them, and send them out to my loved ones to let them know what was taking place, and let them know, if anything happens to me, this is why, and these are the receipts. So, not that I'm afraid of anything. It's just I live a very peaceful life, and until I step out into a public platform utilizing my gift that I always have, I never get threatened, I never get harassed. And so with me reclaiming the law, I thought, well, this might reignite some of that energy, and I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it because let me help you out of here. Let me help you get yourself out of what you think you got yourself into. Oh, JD beat me to it. So I was praying. I took it to prayer and said, listen, I don't feel like it. And I'm not trying to be a rebel. I'm not trying to be an extremist. But those are the words that they use to describe people who are aware. And so I thought, I don't necessarily want to put this on my platform because, to be honest, and this is going to sound really harsh, but I don't care about the whole of humanity as much as I seem like I do. I only care for the people who care to be saved in themselves. Everybody else, to each their own, but I only care about the people who care about themselves. And so I was just like, I really don't care enough to put myself out there like that. But then my spirit said, now ask yourself, are you telling the truth? And I said, well, I care about some people. And then they said, well, that's enough. That's enough. And I actually said, but the way y'all be letting them trolls try me lets me know that y'all will let anybody try me. And I'm not going to put myself out here on a limb if my spiritual team is not here to protect me. And you know what they said? We let who try who? We let who try who? I said, should I announce these messages on my platform? They gave me the judgment card. Sound the trumpet. Ring the alarm. So, with that being said, reclaiming the law will be about how we have given up our consent to the governments, world leaders, and powers that be. We have given up our God given sovereignty with our consent, which is why no karma, the way we pray for it, has come to the people that we have determined deserve it, because according to natural law, they're doing everything with consent. So I'm going to show the terms and agreements and the contracts that we citizens of at least the United States are under, how we came to be under those contracts, if they hold up in natural law, first and foremost. And if you can null and void any contract that you are under in this nation that you did not consent to. That is what reclaiming the law means. I talk a lot lately about consent, legalese, and things like that. Well, I'm going to show you, since I work in real estate, my job is to create contracts. That's what I do. So I'm going to show you guys, from someone who understands contract language, how we, at least I'm just talking about in the Americas for now, why our nation gets away, our government gets away with the things they get away with, even under the eyes of God. Okay? So I'm going to go through the whole Constitution line by line in my Reclaiming the Law series on my members live. I am going to do the preamble here on this public live. That's it. That's all you guys get. My members do get a lot more. Well, because they have invested. They're not just here for the free stuff. They put their money where their mouth is. And today, under this age of grace is gone, we are already in the last days. So, yes, if it's wisdom you seek and all the sources of free wisdom are being censored, and I have some, and if you want it from me, only thing I ask for is for you to prove how serious you are about becoming wise. At least if you're going to deal with me. Because I don't deal with swine. And I don't cast my pearls there. So by me saving certain things for my members, it's me saying I'm casting my pearls where they're sought. I look like conjuring? Good. All right. So before I begin this I'm just going to do the preamble here. Members, we will head over to my members live to finish out Revelations. You guys, we have Tupac back from the grave in the chat. First, we had Diddy in the middle of his RICO trial, and now we have Tupac. My God, all the dead come here. Drake, is that you? Screening as Tupac? Is that you, Drake? I heard you just bought his chain. Is that you? Soul swapping already? Before I begin the preamble, there is something I want to read. And this will come into my series later on. There is this one piece of something that I want to read for you guys. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I just can't do it here because let me go back to Google. Okay. This excerpt that I'm about to read to you guys is from the Law of Nations. The law of nations, or principles of the law of nature, meaning God's law, applied to the conduct and affairs of nations and sovereigns. That's an introduction to what the law of nations is. So what they're saying is natural law is a law that was given by God to every human being. It's inherent natural rights, human rights, and natural laws. But when God created the earth, God did not create governments. God did not create cities. There were people, and we were told to go out and subdue, meaning to develop the world. So there were no governments at the time. These laws applied to every individual because you were your own governor as a sovereign, which is why God gave natural laws, meaning there might not have ever been a need for another set of laws had we rightly interpreted natural laws. However, when nations got together, they realized something. Well, God only made a covenant and gave rights to humans. We have become a nation. Therefore, where can we fit in under God's law, under natural law, and also ascribe natural law to ourselves as nations? Remember the first great city that was created, the Tower of Babel. What happened to that city? It would make you think that metropolis cities and things like that, where there is a government that is sovereign and rules over people, that would lead me to believe that that is not a design by our Creator. So, Law of Nations had to look at natural laws and find a way to ascribe natural laws made for individual sovereign humans to nations. That is what the Law of Nations is. It or Law of Nations, or principles of the law of nature applied to the conduct and affairs of nature, of nations and sovereigns. Okay? So they tell you what this Law of Nations is. Now, this was done, and this was written in 1758. So around the time when the world was being conquered and colonized, is when this Law of Nations was created. Well, why? Why did that happen simultaneously? Well, because in the 1700s, around there, between the 16th, I'll say in the 1600s is when the first United States colony was colonized, I believe. And that is when laws and definitions began to change, anyways. So now the world is beginning to colonize and set up itself in sovereign nations and lands that already existed. And in those lands that already existed, there were people there. These people were minding their business and living under natural law. They were their own tribes, their own villages, but everybody was under a natural law until colonization. That is when the Law of Nations was created. And again, that was written in 1758. So I am going to read just one excerpt from the Law of Nations, and then I'm going to get into the. Yeah, so I got a phone call. Somebody is messaging me let me tell. Hello, who is this calling me? You can't talk. Don't call me back. You guys, somebody calls me every time I'm on live from an 813 number. Now, 813 is usually Tampa. Every time I'm on live doing certain messages, someone will interrupt my live calling me from this 813 number. Usually it comes up as spam. That's what it comes up as in my phone. This time it came up with a name attached to it. And then when I sent them to voicemail because they're interrupting my chat, they text me and said, "Hello, who is this calling me? You can't talk? Don't call me back." This is the same spam number that calls me. So I've never called this person, but they always call me in the middle of a live. And usually the texts go away. This text is still on my screen. So keep in mind things like that when I say I don't be wanting to do this all the time, but I come up here and do it anyways. I know some of y'all don't care because y'all here as trolls, but you think that me just being up here like every other YouTuber was easy, and it's not, because I'm still a real person. And speaking of real person, like I was saying, the law of nations. Now I'm going to read this excerpt and then I'm going to get into the reason that I am here and probably the reason that that spam caller is calling me, interrupting this live, and texting me. Fine, you can't talk. Don't call me back. I've never called this person. It's literally a number that shows up as spam. I take that message as a little threatening. Why are they, being aggressive with me? I don't even know you. So, yes, I do get weird things like this that happen to me all the time. Like I mentioned, the person in traffic the other day, mashing on their brakes when I was behind them. And then when I finally did, now mind you, I was behind them. There's a semi truck on the other side of me. So obviously, I want them. Thank you, Q. And thank you for your kind message that you text me to. Obviously, I want them to speed up so I can get around the semi truck, but they're going extremely slow so that I can't get past them or the semi. We're in two lanes. So once I finally did get a chance to speed around that truck that kept mashing on their brakes with me in front of them so that I can hit them, I told y'all I wasn't going to say the race of the person, but it was a Mexican or Hispanic person, and they were laughing. Like when I got on the side of them, they were laughing as if they were doing it on purpose, and they knew they were. So little stuff like that, trying to get me jammed up in between a truck and a semi truck, and then like continuously mashing on their brakes. So I'm going to read this summary from the Law of Nations, and then I'm going to get into the preamble. Give me 1 second. So the Law of Nations was authored by Emmerich de Vattel in the 1700s. This happened in 1758. He's Swiss. It's his most famous work, and it consisted of the application of the law of nature to nations. Now, the law of nature, meaning God, when God created the earth and created humans, this is how we were supposed to do things. But these laws apply to each person individually. Nations, when they became nations after colonization, because that's when nations erected, they needed to find a way to be recognized under law, under natural law. I know you ain't just called me the N-word. See what I mean, you guys? Just take a look in the chat There's no reason somebody should be in this chat calling me an NIGA. I have not said any one thing that's insulting. You guys see what I deal with here. So, you can see up my nose. It's like they permanently turned on the chats. They had turned the bots off, but it's like they switched them on permanently. How's it insulting when you can call someone white? Oh, I see what kind of trolls I got here. Is it because I'm talking about the law? Natural law? I know they are. The way I get harassed, I didn't need the trolls to tell me that. I've been straight out threatened before. Jason Bourne, oh, you sensitive. This the internet, right? Yeah. Okay. He understood the law of nature as accessible by human reason, according to which both individuals and political societies are capable of understanding their rights and obligations. He introduced into the American colonies in the 1760s. Vattel's teachings about international law and sovereignty were not only carefully studied by American statesmen, but applied them by the international arena. Now, any of you guys that are my members and remember from Reclaiming the Prophecies, when we talk about all the nations drinking from the wine out of the cup of fornicating with the great whore, and I mentioned that this great whore would kind of introduce or be the leader of the beast system, and everybody else would participate with her. Okay. So here we says, but introduced into the American colonies in the 1760s, Vattel's teachings about international law and sovereignty were not only carefully studied by American statements, but applied by them in the international arena. Okay? So that's the summary of the law of nature. I'm just going to read an excerpt of this, and then I'm going to stop and go into the preamble like I said. This is just an excerpt. Preliminaries, idea, and general principles of the law of nations. Nations being composed of men naturally free and independent, and who, before the establishment of civil societies, lived together in a state of nature. That says, and that means, nations are composed of men who were naturally free and independent, and who, before the establishment of these nations, they lived together in the state of nature, meaning under natural law, we were living just fine, free and independent. Of course, I believe what I say. I'm reading. I'm just reading the law of nations. I'm just reading. constitutioncenter.org. Why wouldn't I believe what I'm saying? Hirumi? Why wouldn't I believe? All right, so they're saying before the establishment of civil societies, men lived together in the state of nature. Nations or sovereign states are to be considered as so many free people living together in the state of nature. So somebody came along, and that somebody meaning a statesman, a Swiss statesman, at the Horn of colonization, when they finally planted their feet in the dirt and blood of the people in that land who they had to destroy, the people who were probably born and existed in these lands for millennia, when they came here, they decided, okay, the world was living under God's law, just like in the Tower of Babel. How can we build and now come up with our own law that reaches into the heavens? Meaning, we take God's law and tweak it. How can we take it and tweak it into something that fits us when God never ordained us to create nations? In fact, the first nation that was created was destroyed. But here we are. They're saying because of the fact that free men and women live in a land that we have decided is our nation, that means now the nation is under the law of nature. That's how they loopholed the law of nature, or assumed that it applied to them, just because a nation is compiled of a multitude of individual, sovereign, independent beings. So, with that being said, the nation then tells God, this nation now can be under natural law, because technically this land is our land, but it's comprised of a bunch of free people who are under natural law. So if all of the people who live on Turtle Island are under God's law, and we decide that that Turtle Island is now going to be the United States of America, then technically they're sovereign, so now we're sovereign. That's how they did that. But contractually, I would have to ask, who gave you rights? Did anyone deed the land of the United States, or whatever it was called before? Turtle Island, they called it. Did anyone will or deed this land to you? Did anyone give it to you in a treaty? We would have to guess that no, because they were colonized. The original people here, upon the colonizers approaching this land, they did not come up with an agreement in peace. The people who inhabited this land did not say, I give you rights to subjugate me and create a nation out of this land. In fact, we hear all about the bloody wars that took place when the colonizers were colonizing all the lands that were already inhabited by ancient peoples. So, if they can create nations based off of natural law of a land, then somebody needs to show ownership of this land. Other than that, we can always attest the ownership of this land, but we don't. Why don't we do that as humans? Because we could. We could. We could. The Russians were in Russia since Russia. The Brits, the Arabs, the blacks were in Africa, and then they dispersed because, well, we all know what everybody looked like at the Horn of Humanity until Cain got marked, so we would know who. Anyways, oh, well, let me get you up out of here so you don't listen to misinformation. I'm saying that you had your own home. All right. And so we could naturally say that you all assumed that this land would be yours to make a nation out of. Okay, well, then Russians aren't theirs either. Sure, add more people to the list. Anyways, shall I call you all vagabonds then? Are you all the seed of Cain? If you want to identify yourself with those groups of people, then out yourself. Russia was founded in 1991. Sounds like a vagabond and a wanderer to me. All the original people had their own lands and places where their ancestry can be traced back to in the soil in history. So now you tell me all y'all peoples didn't have homes until later? Sounds like wanderers and vagabonds to me. See how being smart in my chat gets you? So be quiet, because you're identifying yourselves. Anyways. Ooh, they don't like me talking about the law. It's right here. I'm on the constitutioncenter.org. God forbid a black person read the Constitution. God forbid an N-word knows how to read. Ooh, they in here seething and spitting and foaming at the fur. Okay. So, next paragraph, and I'm going to end with this paragraph and get into the preamble. It is a settled point with writers on the natural law that all men inherit from nature a perfect liberty and independence, of which they cannot be deprived without their own consent. Without their own consent. So, how do you give your consent for your perfect liberty and independence to be deprived? It is a settled point with writers on the natural law. That means these statesmen of the American colonies, when they got together and they were thinking about trying to create new national laws, and they were going over God's law to see if they can find loopholes. They got together and then they debated this thing, which is why it says it is a settled point with writers on natural law, meaning these men got together and then debated certain points, and then they came up with a point. They came up with a conclusion. Not saying it's right, but these statesmen, in their attempt to find loopholes in God's law, decided, after looking at natural law, they found out the same conclusion I did. Consent, consent, consent. Consent, consent, consent. Not the Yo Mama jokes. You want me to play a song for you? This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. Is it not? It is a settled point with writers on the natural law that all men inherit from nature. That lets you know you inherit from nature. You inherit from nature just by being born a human. All men inherit from nature a perfect liberty and independence. I repeat, it is a settled point with writers on the natural law, meaning they agree that all men inherit from nature, God, the Creator, a perfect liberty. If it was perfect, whose laws and liberty are we now under? And if natural liberty was perfect, why was there a need for something else? That all men inherit from nature a perfect liberty. and independence, of which they cannot be deprived without their own consent. So that's when a government comes in, because we elect a government to do a whole lot on our behalf, don't we? We elect them and then they take it from there, don't we? Yep, we do, don't we? I'm handsome. That's something that you don't hear often, is it? Anyways, so in a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully and absolutely. These have to be fake bots, because any human being would be interested in hearing if they've never read for themselves. I'm only reading the law of nature. It's in the Constitution Center. So you would think that the bots wouldn't have any problem with me reading this, wouldn't you? So ask yourself who they are and why they're here. Because I'm not even doing a reading. Usually they're in here because they're calling me a witch. But now they're in here because I'm reading out of the Constitution. So what's the real reason? Okay, anyways. In a state, though, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully and absolutely. What don't we enjoy fully and absolutely? A perfect liberty and independence, which we got from nature. In a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully and absolutely, because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign. Why don't you enjoy the perfect liberty and independence that all men inherit from nature? Well, because in a state, the individuals do not enjoy them fully and absolutely, because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign. DJ Vex, I'm only reading. I'm only reading what's in black and white, so I haven't even interpreted anything. Please tell me exactly what I don't know what I'm talking about, reading verbatim. Vex is a word that Caribbeans use when they're upset. Something is bothering them. DJ Vex, that's what your name means. So it sounds to me that you are a professional troll, a troll that comes out, or that is greenlit, meaning your button is pushed, when someone is vexing the system. Your name, oh, the trolls are outrageous today. Is anybody in the chat that is not a troll? Because I have not seen, I haven't seen a regular person outside of my mods blocking all the trolls. Is there any one of my OGs in here? Do you guys see what they're saying in the chat? Oh my God. Oh. Oh. All right. Well, shout out to the real humans. All right. In a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy their perfect liberty and independence that they inherited from nature fully and absolutely, because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign. But, Eric, this is where you can find it. constitutioncenter.org. Law of Nations 1758. But The body of the nation, the state, remains absolutely free and independent with respect to all other men, all other nations, as long as it has not voluntarily submitted to them. You know what that means? If you don't voluntarily submit to anyone, then they do not become sovereign over you. The state understands that, so they act as sovereign. They do not submit to any other nation. In a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully and absolutely because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign, meaning your nation, who they're now calling sovereign. Let's look up the word sovereign. And then I'm going to end it and then go into the preamble. You guys are always talking about who's doing what against the Constitution. They're not doing anything against the Constitution, which is why they're doing it. Oh, what was I supposed to be looking at? Oh, sovereignty. Sovereignty definition. And I'm not going to use the Oxford. Well, what is the... Okay, Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Just to cite my sources for the trolls. A supreme power, especially over a body politic, freedom from external control, autonomy, controlling influence, one that is sovereign. So technically, individuals were sovereign beings until nations were created and then took away that right from humans and gave it to themselves. How did they do that? Well, a bunch of humans live on a piece of land, right? So when they conquered, took over that land and all of those people, they now says, since we have millions of people that are sovereign, individual sovereign citizens, now that we want to call this the United States, technically the United States is sovereign too. That's how that happened. So to be sovereign, you have to be a supreme power, especially over a body. Freedom from external control. Being sovereign means freedom from external control. In a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy their natural laws fully and absolutely because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign. They are acknowledging that our surrender was partial. Why? Because the world was colonized forcefully. But then when they established their governments and decided to roll them out, once we begin to participate in them willingly, that is what they mean, surrendering partially. They may have set this stuff up by force, and we know they did, and we still participate. So that is our partial surrender of them. And since we surrender our sovereign rights, they have every right now to call themselves a sovereign nation. But the body of the nation, the state, remains absolutely free and independent with respect to all other men, all other nations, as long as it is not voluntarily submitted to them. If you volunteer your consent and your participation, you are surrendering your sovereignty from God. That's what even the lawmakers of the nations have said. And they had to say this because this is them debating against natural law on how they can cover themselves under the umbrella of God's covering. But even though they loopholed their way in, that is why there has never been peace amongst the nations. Never. Never will be. I could continue, but that's for my members. That's later on in the series for my membership live. I'm going to go into the preamble and then I'm getting off of here. And then I am taking my talents to my members. All right, let's start with the preamble because I know in y'all school they ain't never teach it to you like this, but this is what I do here. And for those of you all who are new, this is why the trolls are here. This is why they're here. And no, my feelings are not hurt. I came on here knowing exactly what I would be up against when I came on this platform today delivering this message. I already knew. But I also know their fate. I know their current state. So it's a little bit frustrating, but also somewhere where I do have compassion, I grieve for them. Just for 2 minutes, I grieve for them. And then I laugh. I grieve. Oh. Because with your insults, that's all you can say to the truth is insult me. The truth stands. It's here in black and white. Speaking of black and white, we're talking, you know what the fuck we're talking about. It's in my bitter woman. What am I bitter about? I live a pretty good life. I'm getting ready for a trip to Miami and I'm gonna be on the yacht with my ass out. Bitter? I'm everybody's favorite. Oh. Oh. They love saying something about boogers. Are the trolls 12? I get it. They gotta employ middle schoolers because the adults is tired. Nice bra, you're welcome. Aw, HMS times trolls. A profession, of course. I wore a bra and a see-through robe so that you can see it. When a woman puts herself out in the public and dresses this way, it's not to entice you. It's to let you know that I'm powerful. It keeps you distracted. You can't even focus, right? Because society tells women we should be shamed, right? So this is just me saying I'm not ashamed of my power. I do not submit. I do not obey. I am no one's rib. And that is why they are mad. I am a spine, not a rib, darling. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That is you guys' preamble, right? All right. We the people. Well, let's see who we the people are. Who is we the people? Because technically, when the Constitution was first originally written, there was a whole lot of people in this land that were not considered citizens or even humans worthy of rights, weren't they? But they had to go and revise it later, didn't they? But when they dedicated this nation, when they did the ritual of dedicating this nation, this Constitution is a contract with the divine for this nation. Even if they went back and fixed it, the oath the ritual, the blood that was sealed to make this nation. It was our blood. We were the blood ritual. Of course, we weren't included in the rights. If they included us in the Constitution when they made this nation, when our blood was spilled as a sacrifice to make it, well, then they would have instantly contracted judgment on themselves. There would be no United States of America as we know it. It would be the black ass freedmen states if they included us in the Constitution when they first made it. Because our blood was still being used to seal this nation and to build it and to create it. So they could not include us. Why? Well, because after that, they went on to claim, wait, what did they go on to do? They went on to secure the blessings of liberty to themselves and their posterity, meaning their generations. I'm going to break down posterity too, because when you're breaking down contracts, it's not just reading the fine print, it's also understanding the words that are used and what the definition of those words are, their etymology, their history. Okay? Because the word posterity is capitalized, and it is so for a reason. Who is we the people? Who are we the people in the Constitution? All individuals within the nation's jurisdiction with certain rights guaranteed to everyone, and other rights specifically for citizens or people with a national connection. In the U.S. Constitution, the phrase "we the people" means that political power originates from the citizens and not from a monarch or a ruling class. Because when we were a part of Britain, we were under a monarch. So here, now that they're creating a constitution, we're like, we don't follow any orders from the monarch or any ruling class. Because in ancient history, there were ruling classes. Before they colonized the world, there were ruling tribes. And yes, the people that we see ruling the world now were not always ruling any fucking thing, except their part of the world. There were people that they saw as greater than them. Have we not heard about the great ancient civilizations? The Kemet civilization. I didn't say Egypt for a reason, because those were Greeks. The Kemet civilizations and the Chaldeans, so all of the civilizations in history before then. So they're saying we don't take any we don't take orders from anyone except for the people that elect us. Political power originates from the citizens. So if you feel like your leaders or your government is abusing power, they are not. They never said that they would utilize their power in the way you think they should. The only thing they promise for you is that you have a right to vote on them. And then they go on to tell you what powers they give you. But that's, I might go into that here, but that's for my members. Anyway, so that's we the people. Now, when they created the Constitution, and I don't care if they went and scrabbled something into the notes later, when the Constitution and this nation was dedicated, a whole lot of people were not considered we the people. What if Make America Great Again has nothing to do with going back to the Jim Crow era, but the original Constitution. The Founding Fathers' Constitution, when certain people did not have rights. So while reading the Constitution, I like to keep that in mind because we know that I don't need any tip. I don't need any tips from you. I have a tip for you, Kay Ansa. Be quiet. You're in class. So just hush. All right. Back to the preamble, because we have so many people in here trying to teach me stuff. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union than whatever they had just come out of, however the world was before, or whatever the statesmen of the United States had just come out of, they felt like it wasn't perfect. In order to form a more perfect, so maybe they did think it was good, but they thought they could do better. A more perfect union, establish justice. So they are saying that under natural law, it wasn't just. If you are my member, you may know why they are saying that they have to establish just, because under natural law, there was something unjust about it. Well, natural law is God's law. So we can turn to Genesis, and actually Genesis 4 would help me understand why they seem to think that they need to establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility. Establish justice, justice was already there under natural law, and to ensure domestic tranquility, meaning that we have a home. Well, that reminds me of a passage from Genesis 4, actually. Genesis 4. Cain and Abel. I'm going to go to Genesis 4, verse 2. Now, Abel kept flocks. Abel is actually the younger brother. Remember, Cain would be the older brother because, so Cain is the firstborn. Abel was supposed to be the child that was born of a like kind. Cain had a father that was not human. He was a disgraced angel. Eve knew that, so she went and slept with Adam so that he would think that that was his baby. But sure, Adam made love to his wife Eve and she became pregnant. That is not the truth. Eve was pregnant. Eve was pregnant. And she said, with the help of Yahweh. See, when you read this in Hebrew, there are differences in God, the Lord, and then certain other gods. You'll notice that they're not always spelt the same. And that's to denote a difference in the deities that they're speaking about. We hear about the Lord after the war in heaven. Not so much about God as much anymore. Nevertheless, now Abel, the younger brother, the one who had two equally human parents, now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain, the elder brother, brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. That already lets us know that Abel had a little bit more invested into his offering. It said Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering, but Abel, not only did he bring the fat portions, but from the firstborn of his flock. So those were very special to him. Those were special, and so his offerings were special. Typically because people who have a certain blood type, I'll say, a certain type of human is more spiritually inclined than the other. We have a different spirit and a soul, different compassion, different type of worship. Our worship is for real. Ever been inside a black church during praise and worship? Easy to catch the Holy Ghost, ain't it? Even if you ain't even that type, because it's so spirited in there. Well, you ever been to a not so Baptist black church and how a little bit less spirited it is? Eh. Anyways, and that's no shade to any of the types of church and things like that. That's because the Bible isn't going to say much about this. There are plenty other documents out there that you can read to give you history, but my people perish from lack of knowledge, which is why I charge for mine. In the course of time, Cain brought some of his fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was angry. He was jealous. But what happened? This gives insight unto the nature of Cain. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Cain had a natural disposition. He was naturally a little bit more violent, a little bit more hating of his brother, a little bit more prejudiced. Why? Because they didn't have the same DNA. And God was telling Cain, just because of the sins of your mother, I don't necessarily have to punish you if you choose to do right. But your nature is already naturally wrong, and you have to rule over it. That's what it means by sin is crouching at your door. It is their nature and their instinct to be violent and a warring and a hatred bearing people. God is saying you don't have to be that way. You live with decent people. You live in this earth with decent people who have shown you how to be decent. You have to subdue your natural inclinations to be violent and hateful. That's exactly what I'm saying, Denzel. If you do what is right, Cain, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you. His natural makeup, his instincts are naturally to be prejudiced, to be hateful, especially of their fellow brother, their fellow man, probably one that looks different from them. I can guess what I can guess what Abel might have looked like. I can guess what Cain might have looked like. Okay. Still, you guys, I'm still talking about the preamble and why it is important for them to establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility, meaning they feel like natural law is unjust and they don't have a home that is peaceful for themselves. That is why I'm in Genesis 4. I'm not studying my fucking fingernails. I work. I don't have time for that shit. You clean them. You don't have shit else to do but to rub my feet and clean my nails, obviously, because your mind isn't being enlightened right now. So find something else to do. And God blessed them. I've been digging in the fucking dirt. I have a garden, and I got graveyard dirt that I just collected. Want to see it? Want to see why my nails dirty? I got graveyard dirt. I got some more graveyard dirt for my spells. The fuck? Anyways. Wait, how the fuck did... Oh, I'm in the wrong Genesis, ain't I? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm back. So that was 6. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, hey, bruh. Oh, no, he didn't say it like that. Hey, brother. No. I take that back. He probably said it like this. Brother, let us go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where your brother? Now Cain said, I don't know. I ain't his keeper. He already had an attitude. Then the Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. To all of you descendants of slaves, you FBA who think that y'all are not descendants of Africans, but you are good, God-fearing Americans, and you feel that way because your ancestors' blood was spilled here. What do you think your ancestors' blood is saying? This isn't a story about God loves Soja. This is a story about the history of a certain people group. The Bible is the story and the history and the future of a certain people group, descendants of Abraham. They stop it at the Torah and said it's being done away with. Everybody in the Torah was definitely under a matriarchal belief system until Abraham converted. Then all of a sudden we get a new gospel, a new word, a new message. And just because I'm citing the Bible does not mean that's everywhere a testimony is. Like I said, I don't cast all my pearls upon swine. So if you feel left out, consider yourself oink oink. Don't ask me anything about what I think about a war in Israel because I don't. Actually, I do, but the better question is, what do you think about it? Why do you guys care what I think? What authority do I have? Anyways, listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse. You guys keep trying to claim this land after all this blood and trauma was spilled here. It's cursed. Y'all say we're not African, but Africans are the oldest. That is the cradle of humanity. Y'all say we are Americans. American is new. And you say it's because our ancestors' blood was spilled here. God said when people's blood is spilled unjustly on the ground, that place is cursed. You guys are crazy. Anyways. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. You will be a restless wanderer. That means that Cain and his people will not have an established homeland. So let's go back to the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, Domestic tranquility. They wanted a home for themselves here in the United States where they could have peace. Sounds like a people who had been without a home and has now done what they had done at the beginning of time, spilled blood, and then claimed that land for themselves as their home. Nothing new under the sun. Spilled the blood of their brother Abel, who were already here, doing our sacrifices, giving the Creator our first flock fats. Isn't that why when they say everything that ain't Christian is evil? Everywhere they went, everybody, all the Abels had homes, and we were all living and giving our offerings. Then they came, took homes, and abolished every spiritual system outside of this one so that we could not give our offerings anymore and be accepted. Of course it sounds retarded to you, Tanner. How did you even find yourself here in the ark? I can't appropriate anybody's culture's hair. I could say that your culture is appropriating my DNA, my biological human DNA, while you guys are probably from the line of Cain. Oh dear. Oh dear. Here we are, appropriating. You guys appropriate humans. Anyways, you guys are funny. So and then established justice. Well, they probably felt like God's law was not fair and unjust. Because what did Cain go on to say? He said, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth. It sounds to me like Cain and his descendants probably felt like God's ruling was not just. He actually said it. Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear, meaning it's unfair. Not only is it unjust, it's unjust because you caused me to not have my own home. Well, here in the preamble, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, and ensures domestic tranquility. The first oath they take was a similar one to what they did in the days of the Tower of Babel. We will build. We will establish a city for ourselves so that God cannot destroy us anymore. And then here in the 1700s, they say it again after they repeat the same bloodshed, but this time they did it widespread. They said all of the Abels throughout the earth, all the descendants, we will wipe them out. This is Cain's MO, because immediately after. Now, Cain said, I'll be hidden from your presence. I'll be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Yahweh, their God, their Lord said, not so, because the Bible is the history of them, the beast. The original humans weren't Christians. That's a new. That's new. So no, the Bible is not a story, which is why in the New Testament they say the Old Testament, the law, the Torah, the law is done away with. That's why they say that. New religion, new world. And you guys are still waiting for a new world order? Haven't they been calling the United States the New World for hundreds of years? Decades? I mean, but see, that's the deceit that keeps you lost in the timeline, so you can't really identify anything. And then eventually, as you keep waiting for these events to happen and you don't, and they don't, then humans start to believe in those teachings when really they were mistaught on purpose. But God said anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Someone asked me how I felt about the war in Israel. Haven't they been fighting? Israel and Palestine, haven't they been fighting for a long, 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 long time? Sure, Lily. So they have, yeah, well, their God defends them. Their God says nobody can take them out unless they got to fight for it. Anyways, then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod. Now, Nod means wandering. Let me show you, because you guys, I do like to look up etymology. Nod. Land of Nod. The word Nod is from a Hebrew root word meaning to wander or nomadism. I'm just curious, besides the U.S. creating this nation, who in the world, what people group in the world historically have been wanderers? Don't know if we can really trace back a nation or a homeland, but they kind of go into one nation, get kicked out, go into another nation, get kicked out, and they're currently fighting for their own little home that was supposed to be given to them in the 1948s. 1948? That's really, really current. So I just like to look at these scriptures and verses and stories of history and then look at history. I only know of people, one wandering people that are still to this day fighting for a home of their own, even though they typically live in other people's homes and then usurp them. Nevertheless, makes me wonder the bloodline of the founding fathers. Hmm. Hmm. Anyways, we the people of the United States, we already talked about who we the people are and were not when this was created. In order to form a more perfect union, because God did not accept them in their offerings, so there was not a perfect union. Establish justice, because they were told that they were to not have a home because they didn't know how to behave with other humans that were real humans. They didn't know how to overcome their violent nature, their hateful nature. Maybe they still don't. Ensure domestic tranquility, meaning have a home. Provide for the common defense, just in case Our Tower of Babel gets struck down again by God. Promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. They were not blessed, they were cursed. There's only one people that I see at the beginning of creation that was cursed. Now they say that they want to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Let's see what posterity means. Because the preamble would make you think that that means everybody. Posterity definition. Now there is an archaic definition of posterity and a modern one. I'm going to read the archaic, meaning the original, the oldest definition of posterity. This is from Merriam-Webster. The offspring of one progenitor to the furthest generation. The second definition that came later was all future generations. Now let me show you when the definition of posterity changed from one's direct descendants to everybody. Let me show you when. When was the modern definition of posterity created? The definition of posterity evolved over time, but the concept of future generations as the primary meaning became widely established in English by the 16th century. The word entered English in the 14th century with the initial meaning of a person's direct offspring. But later in the 16th century, it expanded to encompass all future descendants. Now, my question was, okay, well, why was the definition changed and what happened in the 1600s for them to want, and by them I mean the English, to want to change what posterity means from my direct lineage to everybody who I consider mine? Let's see. What significant event happened in the 1600s? Let's see. The establishment of European colonies in North America, like Jamestown in Quebec, and the founding of the Dutch East India Company and its global trade network. North American colonization happened in the 1600s, right around the time where they changed the definition of posterity. And then from that definition, they used it in the Constitution. Now, I do believe that when they established the Constitution, when they said for our posterity, they meant the archaic word. I do believe that they meant for ourselves and our descendants. Because if I assume, if I hypothesize that the founders of the Constitution are the same people who were cursed in Genesis 4, then the preamble makes more sense, because everything the preamble states is a response to almost everything that took place in Genesis 4. And then, right when it's time to create the Constitution, they need for this to cover everybody who ever comes and lives in the U.S. Not just them when they started, but everybody in future. They need them to be under the umbrella of their sovereignty too. So right around then, they changed the definition of posterity so that it includes everybody. The word posterity was updated in the 1600s. The U.S. colonies were being established in the 1600s. So my question, well, it's not really a question. I'm not asking you guys anything. So is Cain the reason for war? No, no. There were always going to be wars, but a world domination, submitting, world domination, nobody was thinking about that. Nobody wanted to. And I truly believe that without Cain and his descendants, there would have been less fighting and less war because everybody was human. And humans seem to be a little bit more civil or know how to be civil. It's the same reason why a certain race of people have never done mass retaliations against another group of people because they're civil. They're not inherently evil. I don't know one dark people who ever thought or attempted world domination by bloodshed. The descendants of Cain were the ones who came up with weapons. It was Tubal Cain, actually, I believe, who was skilled in all forms of iron making, weapon making. The descendants of Cain, they even came up with weapons of destruction, guns and things like that that didn't exist. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but knives and guns is going to take you out. What happened when the colonizers came to the world with their guns? Nobody else had guns. Everybody was fighting with sticks and stones. They came with firepower. Everybody else is like, what is that? Sorcery. I don't care about you thinking about a population would stand a chance. And if you honestly think that original people are minorities, you're sadly mistaken. And for any other troll or anybody else that comes and use any of this against me, I am not advocating for that. I am telling you guys, a certain type of people ain't that way inherently. But there's another descendant of people who God said it's your nature to be a certain way. You can be good too. All you have to do is master your hateful ass, destructive ass nature. I don't think it's ever been mastered. I didn't even say what groups of people that were. So some of you guys are feeling really attacked because historically we can look back and only see one really violent group of people that tried to take over the whole world. Now you guys are feeling seen. But why not be seen? Why not be proud? Why be upset and troll me for reading the Constitution, reading the Bible? Ain't that y'all love? Ain't that y'all Bible? Ain't that y'all Bible? Didn't y'all force it on everybody? But now when I read it, when we couldn't read, it was good for us to have the Bible. But soon as us ninjas got some kind of sense, oh, they shaking the table. Ooh, ooh. guys, I'm laughing. You guys should be laughing. And I say this with no hate. I am not anti anybody. I'm not a domestic terrorist. I do not have extremist views about anybody. I do not want to hurt anyone. I would like to see justice and peace for all, just like you guys said in your preamble. And you guys were establishing the United Great States of A to do just that. Why do we not have justice and domestic tranquility? A girl wants to know. We stressed out and we're feeling like a lot of this is unjust. So if you guys are going to set up your constitution, and then dedicate this nation to that, where is it? Maybe you guys aren't capable of ushering in the things that you want to happen. And I'm just going to repeat the message of the Creator. You can be accepted if you just master your devilish ass nature. Why is that so hard for y'all? So that's the preamble. Or that's just the opening line. I don't know if all the articles are a part of the preamble, but I'm definitely going to be going over that with my members. That's our next series after I finish reclaiming the prophecies and revelations. And if you guys are missing out on that because you're not a member, I go through that just the same way as I do this, but even better because it's so easy. It's so easy to point everything out and to tell everybody exactly where we are in that timeline. Shout out to the lamb in the chat. Shout out to everybody that was in here, including you trolls who got enlightened. I know y'all did. I know y'all mad. That's why y'all been in here all day. Mad. Of course I believe the bullshit that comes out of my mouth is written in black and white. What do you mean? These have got to be the most remedial trolls I've encountered. YouTube, what you guys do with the smart trolls? These ones only talk about boogers like 6-year-olds and then say I don't even believe the bullshit that I'm reading when I'm literally flipping my screen around, showing you guys where you can go and read the exact same things I'm reading. But then again, there is a group of people that ain't that bright. I don't know who they are because I know me and my family, we're pretty bright. But somewhere in the world, there exists a group of people that ain't that bright. You know, they needed help bathing. They needed help breastfeeding their children because of all the sickness and disease running through their bodies. They needed help cleaning their houses. They needed help doing hard labor in the sun because we all know what the sun might do. I don't know who those people are, but I know it's not me and my family. Me and the Young family and the William and the Langston descendants, it ain't us because we smart. I don't know though, but it's just a lot of people in the world that ain't that bright. I didn't say not all of them. You guys are new here. And with that being said, I'm going to end this because too many pearls upon swine. You guys enjoy. I'll see my members later. If you don't enjoy, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. You're welcome to stay here. I don't always do this type of reading or this type of topic on my public channel. I dumb it down on my public channel. So if you guys want to come back for all the juicy predictive stuff that I usually call out before it happens, sure. If you're trolling me, you're just going to be just as upset in there too because I'll be seeing stuff and telling you before it happens. Then y'all going to be mad because my mind not only can read, but it can also see into the past, present, and future. I was talking to you, the Preston. Trey Preston. I hadn't even seen you in here. But I appreciate everybody who isn't troll. I wasn't talking about you, Trey. It's tons of trolls in this chat. I didn't even really see you. But you are welcome. Everybody's welcome here. And I'm only being a little spicy because I have so many trolls in this chat. So yes, my OG members and my OG subscribers are tired of having to deal with the chat and the trolls. So I'm going to end this for them. I'll see you guys in a second in the members live. Love you all. See the rest of you guys Wednesday. And I will not be stepping on anyone's wandering vagabond toes. Okay, you guys? Love you. Bye. Even the vagabonds.